All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Monday, 5:08 p.m. California time here, October 27th, 2025 is the date. Latest activity, real quick, here on the globe shows a 2.5 and a 2.5 with a huge cluster of earthquakes there across the Turkey area. And this is why I'm kind of doing an early update here on this Monday, early evening, late afternoon, because of the elevated movement, the escalation that's going on here across this area of western Turkey. Now, this is just off the earthquake app on my phone. Obviously, we could use this, or we could use a simple image like this that shows the fault systems here in the area. These are all listed as unknown faults, but man, it definitely seen a lot of earthquake activity. This is just the last 24 hours of earthquake activity, and it's really ramped up since that 6-pointer stirred up earlier in the day today, earlier in Monday here. So what is going on here? Let's go ahead, and what we need to look at is what's been going on here in the last, I pulled up the last few months here. This goes back to January 1st of this year. We've got 3 distinct areas of earthquake activity there across Turkey that have been elevated and beyond what you would consider just normal activity out here. Where the 6-pointer struck today, that's in this region here, this little cluster. This area also had a previous 6.1 earthquake back in August 10th of this year. We also had some activity stirring up here to the east with a little swarm going on. The largest magnitude in this area was a 5.2. Further swarming up here in the sea area, we had a 6.2 and some swarming as well. So I'm watching this area closely for some potential larger movement, simply because of the way things are behaving out here. The earthquake activity that we see right here, it's a lot for the last 24 hours, but we've had periods here in the last several months here where we see similar events. The earthquake sequence has to be up in the 1,000 range by now. So that's a little concerning when we see that much elevated activity. It kind of reminds me there of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench earlier this year when we had a bunch of 6s and then the 7-pointer, and then 10 days later an 8.8. Not quite as intense there when it comes to the magnitudes, but the multitudes out here, the counts are quite elevated, to say the least, here in this area of Turkey. Let's go back here in history and take a look at this area of Turkey. Of course, 2 years ago, right, we've seen those series of large events across this area of Turkey where the plate boundary is. I had a 7.8 on February 5th, 2023. And then 1 day later, a 7.5, and the number of 6s across this plate boundary is a pretty big deal. That was a lot of earthquake activity. But the region of interest is right over here around this area and northward. It does look like this area is capable of seeing a low magnitude 7 range, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of time that has passed here in this area since a 7-pointer has stirred up. I don't see any. A definition of a megaquake is very subjective, right? One could say a 7-pointer is a megaquake, but technically it's not. Roughly around 8.0 and higher, but a 7.6, that these guys, if you were to experience a 7.6 directly underneath this populated area, one could consider that a major mega earthquake in that region. But it all depends. It's a very subjective term right there. Either way, this region here can see some big earthquake activity, regardless on if we tack on the megaquake wording. And the big deal here is that there's been a lot of time that has passed across this area. Let me go back over here real quick. So it's just south. I'm not for sure how to pronounce any of these names out here, so I'm not even going to attempt to. I'll just point these out here on the map. It's to the southeast here of this region. That area right here. There's some fault systems, obviously, that run in this fashion, and also one over here, as I showed you guys on the map, on this graph right here. a couple different fault systems, but obviously they're there. I wish the USGS here had a better feature to add faults out here to the international community. I really wish they did. It's not that big of a deal. You can easily program that into the coding of the website. It's not that hard. But the closest one here shows a 7-pointer back in 1919, and a little bit further east, a 7.2. So it's very likely that we're going to be seeing a 7-pointer out here, just the way things have not calmed down. We're seeing things escalate still periodically. They'll die off for a couple weeks, and then it will ramp up in that same area once again. Now, we haven't seen that yet, but it would technically take 32 6-pointers to equal the energy released by 1 magnitude 7. I just pulled up 7.0, not 7.3 or 7.5 like this area can see, but you get the wording here. It would take a lot of 6-pointers to stir up out here to release that energy of a 7-pointer. So therefore, it's likely that we will see something larger out here in this region soon. Now, whether it's where the current activity is happening, or if it's one day, I really wish they showed a little bit more than that, for the international community. I just wish there was an option to see some of this smaller quake activity here on the USGS map. It's publicly funded. Man, I want my tax money to go to something good. Get someone programming that. It's really easy to do. You can implement the EMSC data into the programming of the USGS and have that as an option for anyone that wants to come in and see further activity than just one earthquake. It looks like there's really nothing big happening there, but there is. You have to factor in all these other hundreds of other earthquakes in there. And man, they're just stacking up. Look at this activity happening north here. Well, it looked like it was north upside on that side of the world. Alaska, Kamchatka starting to move as well. We'll get to the rest of that here in just a minute, but man, that's it's just a little concerning here. Up further north, there's some larger activity that has happened up here as well. A lot of time has passed. 1999, I mean, that's 26 years ago. Hello. A lot of time. 7.6, 1944. There was one 7-pointer way over here, away from the area of interest back in 2020. But other than that, a lot of sufficient time has passed for some buildup out here. And technically, there's a seismic gap here in this zone where we're seeing the earthquake activity right now. And there is a fault system here. So that may be our next area of big earthquake activity. Technically, yeah, roughly about 3 areas of interest out here. And all of this movement stirred up following that, you guys remember the Santorini volcano area? This is a portion of the swarm. A couple 4s, but there was thousands and thousands of earthquakes out there around the Colombo volcano and the Santorini area of Greece that was stirring up earlier this year. Just a massive amount of earthquake activity. Nothing ever became of it. But now we got, its own swarming up here, tectonically speaking, across many different faults. And it's just escalating. It is just escalating out here with earthquake activity. So I do think we'll see something bigger, up to maybe a 7.3 or so within this region. I'm just looking at this in a historical view in terms of what has happened in the past, where areas have, technically seen a seismic gap in terms of the years that have passed since a big earthquake. And it's all, all the signs are pointing to something bigger happening out here in the, hopefully no higher than the lower 7 range, but even something like that out there in that region of Turkey will be quite devastating. But that makes, how many large earthquakes does that make today? Let's take a look here. Wow, 3 6s. There we go. We got 6.6, 6.5 here, the largest. Aside from that, 2 other 6s. All this happening while we have, you guessed it, we have a coronal hole facing us. couple different coronal holes. I talk about this a lot. I'm not the only channel that talks about it. I've kind of just recently picked up on it here within the last year or two, but more this year in focusing and documenting what takes place here when these coronal holes are facing us. This is an older image that's over a day old now. So these coronal holes are much more in position, and I can show you guys here on this imagery, which is fairly recent. See how that's 10:28 UTC time? The other one was a day old. So we got 3 coronal holes directly facing the planet. These things shoot out magnetic lines in a straight fashion right out into space, right out at the planets here. They don't loop back in on themselves. So I do think it has something to do with those magnetic lines that can affect the plate tectonics here. I mean, this is no different than what's happened here in the last previous events where a massive coronal hole was facing us. We had big uptick around the Philippines last time. And look, it's a coincidence? I mean, I guess it could be, but that's like kind of hitting the lottery a couple times in a row. I mean, it just doesn't happen all that much. It doesn't happen at all for me. But I don't play that all that often. But yeah, 3 6-pointers here. That's it just in the last 24 hours. In the last week, we added a couple more. Got 2 more there from yesterday and the day before. So that's a lot of activity here just, in the last couple days. One newer quake here around the Java Trench, Sumatra area, northern end. That is a 5.1. But I'm just kind of trying to figure out here with this ongoing escalation where some major earthquake activity could take place. This isn't the first time it has stirred up like this in the last few months. It seems to be building up to something bigger in this area of Turkey. Now, it's possible there could be some larger activity than what has historically been documented out here. Very possible. It's a ways away from the plate boundary. Looks like about 100, 200 miles or so north. But there's been a lot of elevated earthquake activity here this year around this region. So something bigger is brewing. I do think we'll see that come to light here eventually soon. I mean, look at that. It's crazy amount of earthquake activity from that 6-pointer today. But like I say, this is not like it just happened today and then it hasn't happened in the last couple months. This has been a rinse and repeat cycle here in this same exact area. Technically 3 distinct regions here. It's been bouncing back and forth between this area, the 6-pointer today, and areas up north. So, and that's that's a lot of activity away from the plate boundary. So watch this area closely, folks. It's looking likely that we'll see something bigger happen out here, unfortunately, around that region. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here at the earthquake coming in around Alaska. Not a big deal, 4.2 around the Sandpoint area of Alaska. This is where the 7-pointer struck back here in July. And then, a couple weeks later, we had that big earthquake over there in the Kamchatka area. But a little bit of movement here. Nothing big, 21 miles deep into that subduction zone, the Aleutian Trench, which is capable of producing megaquakes, by the way. And that megaquake is up in the 9 range for them. Washington area, nothing major showing up here. I want to see if they included anything. No, they didn't. They didn't even bother with adding anything over the weekend. It goes from Friday to Monday. Hold on a second here. Let me go back. Let me recheck that. 27th. Well, one earthquake per day over the weekend. I don't know about that. Anyway, a couple earthquakes out here around the western areas of Washington today. We will double check the tremor map. It's a little early for Cascadia tremor. It hasn't come out yet. Normally it comes out about 7 p.m. here, California time, so maybe check back on that later. But Mount Rainier, a little bit of earthquake activity up there today. I seen that in the update this morning. Got to go back here to this previous UTC time. Let's see what we got. There we go. That's a well distinguished sign of an earthquake there. It's not a rock fall. It's not ice quakes. It's not Bigfoot. That's an earthquake. Did they report it? Let's take a look. Nothing going on across Mount Rainier. One earthquake, a little 0.7 at 11:28 a.m. This morning. That does not match that earthquake. 11:28 this morning would be. It could be any of one of these little bitty spikes, but there's earthquake activity occurring, and it's just not being reported there. Mount St. Helens, the same thing. Periodic earthquake activity. It's been an area of interest here, actually, in terms of the swarming that's going on. Go back here to the previous UTC time and see what we have happening here. There's a huge P wave and then the S wave here that followed that big earthquake in the Caribbean area this morning. Surprisingly, we're there, not in. It's within that region where the big hurricane's happening. We'll cover that here towards the end of this update video. But there's the S waves. There's the some more S waves from the Turkey quake, and local earthquakes going to show up here in these spikier type lines. And there's, as you can see, there's some happening there. I can definitely spot them, but nada. Zip zero being reported there. Cascadia subduction zone here, southern end. Nothing new to report there across the area of Northern California for now. Earlier this morning, a 3.5 just offshore, right across that triple point boundary, pretty shallow. And then a couple other 2s in the region there. Bay Area of San Francisco, quiet. Southern California, absolutely quiet. If I could draw one area here on the map that's been, we've seen a little bit of activity, but it's been awfully quiet while everything else moves around it. I would draw the West Coast out here, circle. Just because it's been super quiet. Everything's moving. Everything has been moving but California. Occasionally we'll get, a number of 2s and 3s out here. This is just the last week of 2.5 and above, which is a little bit on the elevated side out here. But I guarantee you these 2s and 3s do absolutely nothing in terms of relieving the strain out here that's been building up here for quite a while. I can't recall how many. I think it was like 1 million 3-pointers it would take to relieve the strain of a 7-pointer out here, or it was an 8-pointer. I can't remember exactly what, but you guys get the idea. So anyway, elevated activity out here in the last week, but nothing in terms of sufficient adjustment, which will take place. The question is when. Today, 2.5 and above. In the last 24 hours, a couple out there in Southern California, but really nothing big happening for now. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up there on the graph, but it seems like the reporting has been a little on the light side, if anything is happening out there. So I do like to double check just all the seismograph stations and see what we got. This is well, this looks like it's offline here. Right? 1024? Hello? I was wondering, I was looking at these the last couple days, and I was like, man, they almost look all the same there. Something's wrong with that. That one is old as far as data goes. Same for this one. Right? 1024. I know we're not back on the 24th here, and even if it was the 27th, we're off on the time period. So we have 3 days of no data going on there across Yellowstone National Park. Let's see if the other sites work in here. That's going to be Yellowstone seismograph stations. They're offline as well. Look at that. Hello. Don't know what's going on out there across Yellowstone, I guess. Interesting. Pretty crazy. Public money at work there. All right, let's move on past that. Oil fields of Texas still rocking and rolling. A couple earthquakes there in the northern Arkansas region from early this morning. That sits just outside the New Madrid seismic zone. One earthquake over around Washington. Well, well, Washington, D.C. area, but Riverside, Maryland, 2.5. It's a little odd quake. I wonder if they felt that out there. Most of the time, these little 2-pointers, you can actually feel them. Quite a few reports there across the area. Look at that. Just really light shaking. It's not that big of an earthquake, but kind of a little odd zone. Oops, let's go back here. Check out the U.S. hazard. It's kind of outside any major hazard zones. Up around New York, you got some big-time potential, and outside of Richmond. But in here, just you don't see that much earthquake activity out there. A little on the odd side. All right, let's see here. Let's look at the rest of the globe, see what's going on. New Zealand, pretty quiet for now. Got some activity there in Australia. That is an intraplate boundary. When things stir up there, that normally means we need to watch areas out here across the plate boundaries, even down south here. New Zealand's been pretty quiet here today. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, a 5-pointer up there. Japan, quiet. I'm going to have to... Let's see. See, there's that 6.5 in the eastern area of the Caribbean plate. I'm going to have to adjust this time period a little bit, just slightly, because of all the earthquakes that are happening there in Turkey. They're eating up all the numbers of the globe. So it's taken away from the count of the rest of the globe here, the data. Well, that's a pretty big earthquake down here, and this region can get bigger though. Guadalupe area, 6.5, pretty big shaker. There was a 6-pointer shortly thereafter. Number of 5s and 4, or one 5-pointer and a couple 4s in there as well. It does look like there was another earthquake stirring up out here. Got to watch that. There's some big earthquake activity that can happen out here. 6.5 is actually fairly minimal. Atlantic Ocean pretty quiet. South America quiet as well. Got some uptick going on. It's just I just don't understand what's going on here with California. You know, it's not like I want it to happen, but it's the odds out here. It's beating the odds of, you know, as to why we haven't seen a big earthquake out here yet. I know things. The slip rate out here is slower compared to other areas around the planet, but you know, we've got a lot of time that has passed since we've seen any major earthquake activity out here across the West Coast, and that's just along the plate boundary. There's many other fault systems inland as well that's well overdue. Cascadia subduction zone got a lot of potential out here, and it's got to be coming pretty soon. Let's see. So space weather activity. Got B flare movement. Really nothing happening in that space weather department. Pretty quiet in terms of any solar flares, but as I mentioned, there's at least 3 coronal holes here facing the planet. This is the more newer image. One up north, one center disk here, directly shooting out magnetic lines at the planet. Coronal hole, or aurora activity possible here tonight and tomorrow night, as a CME was produced there, kind of off on the western limb of the sun a couple days back. We may get a glancing blow, but I was looking at some of the models. I really don't think it's going to be much. I don't think we'll reach a G1 class storm category, but you just never know. Looking at the data right now, it does look like there's a little bit of density here. That may be just the glancing blow that we're looking for, or maybe kind of like a shock wave previous to it, where that jumped up a little bit. But when that kicked up, the density, we've seen that BT-BZ component shift south, so that's going to suppress the auroras. High-speed solar wind stream, not so much, but that density did kick up a little bit earlier today. But again, I think this is just going to be one of those things where it's either going to hit us or it's going to completely miss us. And it's it was kind of off on the far western limb there, so not a direct impact to the planet. Flare threat right now pretty low, about as low as it can go. 5% chance for M flare, X flare, 1% or less. 70% chance for C flare. Crazy low. All right, let's take a look at Hurricane Melissa, which is a strong Category 5. I seen wind gusts there. They were saying like 230 mile per hour wind gusts. That is crazy. What's going on here with what just happened there? Let's see. Will this one work if I'm already on it? Yes, it will. Okay. That's just a little weird. Here is the Hurricane Melissa infrared imagery. It does look like they're a little slow, meaning that there's probably quite a bit of quite a bit of viewers looking at the data. Right now, stalled out to southwest here of the Jamaica area. It is looks like it's taken a little bit more westward turn, and if anything, if you look at the eye wall, there's definitely some wobbling going on with it almost looked like it was trying to go south and now starting to go back maybe to the southeast. So it will be interesting to see what happens with this. Either way, it's a Category 5 hurricane. Maximum sustained winds of I couldn't even imagine 175 mile per hour sustained winds there. That is pretty crazy. Yeah, there's probably a lot of people there visiting Tropical Tidbits page and also the National Hurricane Center. It's still expected to track northward here as a major hurricane, probably as a Category 5 there, slamming into Jamaica. There is the hurricane warnings fully in effect there across the area. But 175 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts well above 200. Right now the movement shows northwest at 2 miles per hour, but you know, looking at this model here, it almost looks like it's kind of, the eye wall at least, the area of circulation kind of wobbling down here, wants to head south a little bit, and it just, you guys see it? It just kind of looks like it did a little loop there with really no definite direction right now. Yes, there's some upper level winds that are kind of shearing off, moving off to the north, but the eye wall is where you want to watch the movement at. That's going to tell you where the hurricane's going to be going. And right now, little uncertainty. I have to keep an eye on that. Yeah, something's going on there with the Tropical Tidbits page, so I better not close this window out or else maybe I won't get back in. Let's check out the forecast model, see if that may be off. That's offline as well. So these guys are probably getting overloaded. They're on their server. Here's the paths of the hurricane model. This here is definitely showing a more eastward direction, but right now, you know, it's much further west, so it's outside of the model range for now. Either way, pretty big deal. Hopefully everyone got out of harm's way out there. 175 mile per hour sustained winds. That, I mean, I don't know what can withstand that. Not much. Nothing major going on there for severe weather for now. And again, folks, just you know, keep an eye out here across the Turkey area. This just been kicking up like crazy. Big old swarm going on there from a 6-pointer right now, but as I mentioned, this is not the first time it's done this exact same thing. It's been swarming here in the last, you know, couple months, off and on in 3 areas. This is the main region, but all signs kind of point to something bigger happening out there. Watch the Sumatra area, getting some larger activity there off the coast. Just be on guard. California could definitely see something here soon. There's a 2.5 coming in right now. That looks like it's up there across the Clear Lake volcanic field. There's hydrothermal plants up here in these geothermal fields. A number of them. You have to zoom in to see them. But these are the facilities out there, and they're always producing earthquakes out there. 39 in the last 24 hours. 923, which is a little light in the last 30 days. Sometimes we've seen that in the thousands, couple of thousands of range. in terms of earthquake activity. But this one here, the newest one, a little 2.5 south here, underneath this facility. I'm not for sure what that is, but it's a ways away from the geothermal fields up north. Seismograph stations there look pretty quiet for now. I am probably going to add on a Turkey station here just because of the escalation there in earthquake activity here again. And it's literally right around where that swarm is occurring. No data? Oh no, we got data coming in. We'll use, let's see here. Some of these are out of whack. I didn't mean to pull that many up. But we'll keep these top two up there for now. There's a lot of Turkey stations here. Dang it. All right, so have a good one, folks. Enjoy your Monday night. If there's something else coming up here tonight that needs another update video, then I'll jump in. Say, for example, if we got Cascadia tremor counts, slow slip events elevated, then I may do an update on that tonight. But other than that, we'll see you guys back out here for the Tuesday morning update. Unless, of course, something major happens. Have a good one. Stay safe out there.